Good morning. Welcome to United States Sports Academy. And from our beautiful campus in Daphne, Alabama, we're really fortunate this morning to have on our Sports Talk program Coach Joey Jones, the only football coach that the University of South Alabama has ever had. Welcome, Coach Jones, and we thank you so much for coming. Also with me today is Dr. Brett Simmermacher, who played baseball. We just found out we were talking earlier, they were in college at the same time. Coach Jones was playing football at the University of Alabama, and Brett was playing baseball at the University of South Alabama. For those of you who don't know, most people think of Coach as the football coach, but he was a great athlete in the day. He graduated Murphy High School. We have one of our faculty members, Brandon Spradley. His wife is now the track coach at Murphy High School, and Brandon's dad, who coached at Blunt, said he remembered Coach Jones as a track guy in high school. So, and then he went and played for the Bear for 4 years at Alabama. And his senior season, he was chosen as All SEC and played in the Senior Bowl. And he was also selected to the Crimson Tide's All-Decade Team of '80 as a wide receiver. Then played for a couple years in the USFL with the Birmingham team, I believe, and then the Atlanta Falcons for a couple years, and then went back to coaching. Coached 2 different high schools in the Birmingham area,
right?
And ran up a quite impressive record there, especially at Mountain Brook. Took the team to the finals one time and to the semifinals a couple other times. Had a record of 101 and 27 for his 10 years at Mountain Brook, and then coached for 1 year at Birmingham Southern. And most people down here probably don't know this, but that was also kind of a startup program because they hadn't had football for almost 40 years.
Right. And
Coach Jones restarted that program, and then was selected by Brett's good friend Joe Godfrey to start the program at South. So, Coach, welcome. And I'll let Brett fire the first question.
Okay.
Well, Coach, I played for a legend in Eddie Stanky at South Alabama, and as Dr. Butler said, you played for Bear Bryant. Coach Stanky had a tremendous effect on my coaching career. Can you talk a little bit about how the Bear influenced you in the coaching arena?
I think that I get that question a lot, and one of the biggest things about him, he was the same man with you in a room like this, in front of the media, and speaking at a banquet. He was the same man all the time. And so what you saw is what you got, and that's what I liked about him. And there's a lot of other things I learned, obviously, about preparation.
Sure.
And some of the toughness issues and things like that that I learned from him. But the best thing that stood out to me is just he was a man, and when you saw him, you knew what you had.
Good.
Questions.
You have a question? Go ahead.
No, ask people.
Huh?
Ask.
By the way, for those of you who are watching the slide, you can type your questions in, and our producer Sarah will ask Coach Jones the questions. Coach, one of the things I like to do as an Auburn grad is to rub it into the Alabama fans whenever I get any opportunity. And one of the things that I've been giving them a hard time about the last couple of days is that Coach Jones has actually had a 10-0 season, an undefeated season, more recently than Nick Saban has. So tell us about those first 2 years in building the program.
Yeah, it was very interesting, to say the least. And when we start a new program, it's the thing that overwhelms you the most is just everything you have to do at one time. It's not the recruiting, it's not building a field house, it's not buying helmets and shoulder pads, it's not hiring secretaries, hiring football staff, all those kind of things. It's just they all came at one time, and I had to, basically I was up to 11 o'clock at night just on my cell phone, constantly from 6 in the morning to 11 at night those first 6 months. And so into it, real passionate about wanting to build a program, and so it was a fun time, but also a grinding time, Then you go through the first couple of seasons where we're just trying to get the very best players we could find. Obviously, we didn't get too many Division I type players at that time. Got some good players though, and so we to compete at the highest level we could, and so had some good success early, and I think Joe Godfrey had a lot to do with the setup of the program, and I learned a lot. I went down to FAU, as a matter of fact, talked to Howard Snellenberger about some of the things they were able to do to start the program, and some of the things that he told me not to do. Probably listen to those more than what to do. And so one of the things was he said that most programs start early and they kind of have a good spurt, and then they drop off. They'll have a bunch of guys on, that they've had for 3 or 4 years. They have a big class of 42 or 38 seniors. And they really drop off, and that's what happened to FAU. That's what happened to FIU. That's what's happened to UAB. A lot of programs that out there. So I tried to listen to them and try to spread our classes out where we didn't have a class that had 42 in it, where we had a huge drop off. Now 2 years ago went to a bowl game. We knew that was a class that we've been building, and the next year we did lose 31 seniors, so it wasn't 42, but at least I minimized it somewhat. And so I learned from that, and we came back the next year and almost got into a bowl eligibility. Didn't quite get there, but some of these teams drop off to the 1-11s and 2-10s and that kind of thing, in the course of trying to build a program.
Right. Yeah, it was an incredible start. Won our first 17 games, which was pretty impressive. You talked about Coach Snellenberger, and for the audience out there, I told Coach earlier, I'm a Florida Atlantic University graduate, so but I didn't get too upset when they broke our record for going to a bowl game in the second year of eligibility. But one of the things they were able to do recently is build the stadium on campus. They played in Lockhart Stadium their first, I don't know how many years, which is probably about as old as Lad Peebles. But now they have the stadium on campus. It's kind of a funny story. You know how they sell naming rights to stadiums. They actually sold the naming rights to a prison. And so when they're having a controversy over this stadium, the jokes about the prison and everything were kind of funny. Because they were calling it Florida Atlantic University is the Owls. They were calling it Alcatraz in the newspapers. So anyway, so what do you think are the prospects of getting an on-campus stadium at South?
Well, I think the prospects are good. It's just a matter of when. I think right now our administration is working diligently to secure some funds to be able to do that. I think we have the prints, we have everything the way we want to do it, the amount of the seats we're going to have in the stadium, how we're going to finance it. I mean, it's done from A to Z. Just now a matter of finding the money, and we're guessing some things I can't quite mention, but we got some things really underway right now that I feel real good about. And so it could be as quick as next year as far as starting the process, but it could be delayed 2 or 3 if some of the monies don't come in early. But we need it. We need a stadium on campus. I mean, I love Lad Peebles. I played there, but for a recruit coming in, it's not quite what you want to show them. And when you go to Troy and you go to Lafayette and you go to Arkansas State, they got these beautiful stadiums. They have home stadiums. They have indoor facilities. They have all these things that we just don't have to show to our recruits, and it's tough, so for recruiting's sake more than anything else. And I think secondly, the atmosphere of the crowds that we would have, I think would be much different. And we've had some big games. We had 31,000 this year, that we played against Troy on a Thursday night, which was tremendous. But I just think that home atmosphere of the fraternities and sororities walking through the stadium and tailgating all around campus will just bring so much to game day and also to our recruiting, which in turn turns into wins.
Sure.
Have they determined? Are you allowed to say where they may put it?
Yeah, the goal site right now is where the intramural fields are, which would be
Back by the new football facility.
correct.
Okay.
Correct, which that'd be a perfect spot for it. That's what they've talked about.
Great.
Yeah, the Mitchell Center is a beautiful building. If you could get some equivalent
question
football, I
like
think
it.
it'd definitely be good. Go ahead, Sarah.
I have a couple of questions. One's related to the football team and one's related to your career.
Okay.
Which one would you like to
Do
do
three,
first?
I guess.
Okay. You were on the track and field team at the University of Alabama your freshman year in college. What were your events and who were some of the fastest guys you ran with and against?
That's a good question. I ran my freshman year. I was a 6th-string receiver on the football team my freshman year. So Coach Bryant said, you can go and try to do what you want to do. And then by my sophomore year, I ended up being a starter. It wouldn't let me run anymore. So that's that story. But anyway, as far as I did run the 100 meters, and I ran on the 4x1 team in the SEC championship that year. I was a lead leg, the guy coming out of the blocks in the 4x1. And the fastest guy that I've ever seen is Calvin Smith, who had the world record. He's one of the first guys to run. He ran 9.91. That was back when that was tremendous. Now
Pre-Usain Bolt.
dude, Usain Bolt's running 9.6 or whatever it is. But the 9.91, I saw him run that. It was pretty tremendous. He was 135 pounds, maybe 5'7", but he could motor. So
Yeah.
Calvin he could move.
Coach, how do you feel that a mid-major undefeated Western Michigan is not being given committee consideration in terms of a top 10 selection?
Well, you look at it, and I'm on the coaches poll, and you look at it, and you got to look at the strength of schedule, and do you really think this team could beat that team? In other words, do I think Western Michigan could beat Oklahoma, who's in the top 10? And, can they beat them? Well, we're an underdog role too here at South Alabama, and I think that I understand that, and I think it's great the fact that they are in the top 25. And I don't know exactly where they are at this point, but I think that's great. But realistically, you got the Michigans and the Louisvilles and those teams that have played probably a much tougher schedule. Not taking anything away from Western Michigan, because I think they've done a tremendous job. There'll be a story for a long time, especially if they go to a New Year's Day Bowl. Northern Illinois did that a few years back. They played Florida State in the Orange Bowl, I believe.
Yep.
And what a tremendous thing for a mid-major to be able to do. So I don't know that I would vote them in the top 10 unless they played in Oklahoma and beat in Oklahoma, or beat somebody that was in the top 10, or even in the top 15. If they beat somebody pretty convincingly. So I think it comes down to strength of schedule and who you're playing.
Yeah, last year Houston went to the was it the Peach Bowl and just trashed Florida State. Kicked Florida State's butt really, really bad.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things, Coach, this year there's been two tremendous firsts for the program. First game of the season, you guys beat Mississippi State in Starkville for the first ever win against the SEC program. And then actually, Brett and I were at the game when you beat San Diego State.
Oh, really?
And that was the first. When I was listening to the radio the day before the game, and one of the guys, local radio, one of the guys said, "This is the first time a ranked team's ever played at Ladd Peoples." And the other guy said, "No, it's the first time a ranked team's ever played South Alabama at Ladd Peoples because," and I didn't know this. He said Alabama and Auburn used to play one game a year at Ladd Peoples.
Yeah, way back in the day.
Yeah, way back in the day. So there were some ranked teams that played there.
Yeah.
But you beat San Diego State 42-14, which was a pretty handy win. And I think that we brought, Brett and I brought 20 Chinese students with us that didn't speak any English, and we had a
That's
chance.
explained.
They understand what was going on?
Yeah.
Well, we had an interpreter.
We had a
Okay.
chance there. But I think they got it, and I kind of joked with them when they were getting close to the end of the program here. They were here for 6 weeks because we were at the Florida State South Alabama soccer game, and Florida State was ranked number 1,
Mm-hmm.
and South won, and then we were at the football game when you guys played San Diego State. So I told him, I said, the athletic director called and said he wants you guys to stay here. You're good enough.
Your sideline passes.
But tell us a little bit about what it was like. It had to be a tremendous thrill in both of those situations, and I would imagine that those kinds of wins are really important to recruiting.
Yeah, they are, and I think it'll also be something we'll remember for a long time. And the Mississippi State game was, I'll never forget it. After the game was over, and all the players hugging each other, and just the joy of achieving something like that. And my wife coming on the field, my daughter, my son, it was a great time. Got a lot of pictures and things to remember for a long time. San Diego State, people don't realize around here maybe how good they are, and that nobody's really come close to beating them. We beat them 42-24, and that was close later, 28-24 in the fourth quarter. We kind of scored 2 quick touchdowns, but that win was huge. And so those kind of games, it certainly when you go to recruit, they see that, and that's huge for you.
Donnell Pumphrey was, we were talking before the game about him, and it didn't look like he did much during the game. Then you look at the stats, and he had 151 yards against you guys. And then I saw on TV last week that he's run over 200 yards 4 times already this season. So he's quite a player. And you guys, it seemed like you guys held him in check, but like I said, with 151 yards. But what a great win that was. The only other question I wanted to ask you, we'll see if Sarah has any more, is Braden Bowman, tight end for the New York Jets.
Yeah.
First South Alabama player to play in the NFL. Do you think you have any prospects on your roster this year?
Yeah, we do. Actually, I'll mention Wes Saxton played with the Jets 2 years ago. Didn't play much. I think he got in 1 game that year. And then Braden came and played this year. And that's 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
And Gerald Everett is our best tight end who will get drafted.
Okay.
He'll be up probably, I say probably, unless something just crazy happens. They're estimating he's going to be a second round or third round pick.
Awesome.
So
Great.
they like him as he's in the top 3 tight ends in the country.
Good.
So with that guy, I remember he caught a long pass in the San Diego State game. I don't know if you remember that or not, but for a touchdown, and he's got a chance to be drafted. So that'll be good as another one in the league because I think Wes is gone with the Redskins right now, and Braden is playing with the Jets. He had a knee injury, but he's playing, so there'll be a third tight end. We call us tight end you.
Tight end. Like Penn State used to be linebacker.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
That number 1 looks like the real deal too, the wide receiver.
Yeah,
He transferred from UAB, right?
he did. Well, actually, was with us in South Alabama, and then his dad was sick and lived in Birmingham. So went up there to be with him, and then that program cut the program. They came back with us.
Oh wow.
So he was actually at Alabama before that. He went to Alabama, South Alabama, UAB, and South Alabama again. So
So how many years does he have left?
he's done this year.
He's done this year.
Mhm. Good player, really good player.
Yeah, really good. I was watching one of the games on TV earlier this year, and I said, "Wow, who's that number 1?"
Mhm.
He looked like a big time receiver
We're also live on Facebook.
there. Are we?
hmm
You have any questions?
Yeah, I do. Are you satisfied that you got Presbyterian scheduled for November 19th because originally it was LSU?
We wanted to play LSU, obviously. We wanted to go to Tiger Stadium and play, and our kids love those kind of venues. But it was out of our control, and certainly we wanted to play the game. And I think LSU wanted to play us. But with the weather game, they made a change in their schedule. And so we ended up picking up Presbyterians. We had no other options. We didn't want 2 weeks in a row. We didn't want that to be off, 2 off weeks in a row. And also, we just want to play another game. And so Dr. Urban started working on the contract on, I forget what day I want to say, it was a Thursday. And Friday at 3 o'clock, we had a contract in hand, had it done. So thankfully, we got a game. And, it's just another game that gives us a chance to get toward bowl eligibility. And that's where we're trying to get this year.
For those of you who don't know what that question is about, because of the hurricane, the game in Gainesville between LSU and Florida was canceled, and then they had to reschedule. And they picked next week because Florida and LSU didn't have a common off day, and Presbyterian was the team that was supposed to play Florida. So that was a natural fit
Right.
for Presbyterian and South to play on the 19th.
Do you have some very strong recruits on the horizon for the program? I understand that you can't talk specifics with recruits.
Yes, I can't talk about them, but we do. I guess that's the best way I can answer that. Let's talk about needs a little bit. I think next year, really, our defensive line is going to be as deep as we've ever had. We lost our 4 defensive starters this summer to injuries and different things. So all 4 defenses, they were out. So we ended up having to play a lot of, guys that were backups, good players, but, guys that were behind them. And so we developed depth with those guys. We've kind of developed 2 deep this year. We're only losing 2 guys off all those players out of 12. And we're bringing those 4 starters back. Next year we'll be back on the team. So we will be, to answer your question about recruiting, we don't really need any defensive line. We'll be, 3 or 4 deep. And that'll be the deepest we've ever been since I've been here with good players. Linebacker, we'll have 5 linebackers who can play those 2 positions, really good players. We need to find a safety or 2. That's something we want to hit, 1 junior college guy, 1 high school guy. Offensively, we're quarterbacks are back. Our starting running back is back. We've got a really good tight end going to replace Gerald at tight end. And receiver-wise, we've got some players there, but I think we need to sign 1 or 2 really good receivers to help this class. And so our biggest needs are a couple of receivers and a couple safeties.
Okay, last question.
Okay.
About the Sun Belt Conference. There's going to be a championship game that they're trying to start in 2018.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments on how you think that will help the conference?
Yeah, I think it'll be tremendous for our conference because it just adds another national TV game to this is Sun Belt Conference championship. In recruiting, that's these kids. They look at those kind of things, and so plus the way it's set up now, we don't play 2 teams, and Appalachian State may not play 2 teams. Well, you may have the best record, but you may not play the two of the better teams in the league, or you may have not played two of the worst teams in the league. So it's really unfair in some ways, because you could get lucky with a good schedule.
Well, like last year, Iowa was in the Final Four,
Right.
and they didn't play Michigan or Ohio State.
Yeah,
And so they went undefeated.
exactly. And so that kind of thing. So a championship game would solve that problem. And so I always felt like, wow, how can you really call this team a true champion when you didn't play two of the teams? And so, but if you have an East and West, North and South, whatever however you split it up, you can have a champion play a champion, and I feel like you get a true somewhat champion from that.
Is that it?
Mhm.
You got anything else, Brett?
No. Best of luck the rest of the season. Hopefully, we'll see the Jags get bowl eligible, and you guys can get selected for a game. I'm always rooting for the Jags, even though I'm a Buckeye. But anytime
You
the
root
Jags,
them too.
but that's the beauty of sport. I went to South Alabama for a period of time, and coincidentally, West Florida, which neither school had a football program when I went to school at those schools. So, I got a variety to root for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coach, we really want to thank you, and hopefully, maybe next year, the year after that, we'll have you on before you're getting ready to play a New Year's Day Bowl.
There you go. There you go.
Coach,
Really get there.
Thanks for being here,
Okay,
and
thank you.
best of luck the rest of the season.
Thank
Hope
you.
to see
Thank
in
you.
the bowl
Good seeing
game.
you. Thank you.
For the rest of you guys, we're here every Wednesday, so have a great week in sports, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 11:30 a.m. Central Time from the campus of the United States Sports Academy. Have a great week in sports, everyone.